Yeah, we're pretty close to this situation here. Yeah, you make some good points there.
What do you think?
I think you made a good point about Putin is that, when you no longer are the premier of Russia, you don't just go to Florida and retire like a president does, and you don't go make a library. Like you said, it's a life or death situation for that person. And, we've seen them squeezed out of the technology revolution because they haven't been there. They're not creating that value for the future. What do they have? Well, they got a military, right? And they can do asymmetrical warfare pretty good. They send people over to England and they poison people in cities here with a radioactive drug that can only be produced in like a Russian reactor. They do that quite publicly because that's one of the ways they can kind of control power. So I don't like the way this is being backed into a situation where a guy, if you look at Putin, he's been cut off from his people because I think he's been super paranoid about the virus and everything. And he's coming to the end of that term. And I don't think you want somebody with very few options and squeezing them financially and all of the citizens. Yeah, it's a dangerous thing. They're shutting down a lot of the online things and the Upworks and all that stuff out of Russia. Like you said, how does this build confidence in any type of monetary system in the future? And then you got the nuclear warheads. I mean, don't get me started on that. And we're also seeing that, like you said, you were in Argentina. Imagine if you were in Ukraine or Russia right now, or even Canada where they froze assets recently. I mean, you would want something like a cryptocurrency, just to stay functional. So I'm in two minds. In one case, it shows a great use case and shows what's flawed with our financial system. But when fiat currencies go down, they go down big. So it's trying times. I'm gonna digress over to something completely unrelated, but something I want to get your take on, which is NFTs, because we never saw.
One second. We're not live right now, right?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Can you just put the AC on? Go back. It just got hot. Can you put the AC down? Sorry. Yeah.
No worries, man. I've had people go to the bathroom on the show, so it's all good. NFTs. I wouldn't have thought that you would be dropping your own NFTs and be as versed as you are in NFTs. What do you see in the NFT phenomenon? Has your opinion changed over time?
Sure. Well, I just to be clear, I haven't dropped my own NFTs yet. Right. I've been talking about it, but I haven't done it. And the reason is because I'm being very careful, and I want to make sure that when I do drop them, because I know they'll sell pretty well. I assume they'll sell out very quickly because I have a large following around the world, but I want to make sure that there's something that's going to happen afterwards, like real utility. A lot of the stuff I've seen right now, most of them, it's a speculative, wild speculative boom. And every once in a while you see something like the Bored Apes happen and it's awesome and cool. Listen, I own a CryptoPunk.
Yeah.
And I've been a heavy buyer of NFTs. And I've made some money with it. I've lost some money with it, but I love the idea of it. I think we're at literally the infancy of NFTs and what this can do for many, many, many industries. Right now you see with like artwork being used as an excuse to create something else. A lot of these NFTs that are out there in collections I think are going to face massive regulatory problems, like massive. Like I think that when this regulatory crackdown happens, a lot of the people who launched their personal NFT collection and talked about it being their personal IPO or the ability to invest in me and my future profits, it's like literally exactly what you can't do without getting yourself thrown in jail. And some of the biggest collections out there, I don't want to name any names, but I'm sure you know who they are as well, have been talking as if there's just no securities laws. And they created securities, like there's just no doubt they are securities, and they've made tens of millions of dollars doing that. And I just think it's going to end very, very badly. I don't think the Bored Apes is anything like that. That's the opposite, where it was like, it almost happened like spontaneously, like fire. And that's a different version, right? But I think that NFTs are far more applicable to other industries, like tokenizing things like real estate, title insurance, use it in gaming and stuff. I think it's amazing. So I am massively into the NFT world, and I'm going to drop my own NFTs. But when I do that, I'm going to make sure that the exit ramp, the use case, doesn't violate any laws, which I think many of these do. And also will be ongoing. It's not going to expire in 24 months or 3 years or anything like where. And after that, then what happens? I mean, it's like it starts. I know some of the stuff defies logic right now, and I think we're seeing that a lot of these NFTs are just going right down the toilet to zero or close to it. And then we see sometimes one really takes hold. And typically that is because there's something about the community that everyone loves. And it's great when it works.
You spent just over 100 Ethereum, I think, on your CryptoPunk, about $400,000. Why did you buy? What's that?
40. I paid.
Okay.
140,000. Yeah.
Yeah. And so why did you buy it? And did someone offer you more for it right after you bought it? And what did that CryptoPunk teach you about the NFTs?
That's why I bought that. I bought the CryptoPunk for the education because I wanted to get into the space. And listen, I was on the cusp of dropping NFTs 4 or 5 times already. And I kept stopping. I had the collection done. I had utility created. I was supposed to launch back in October, again in November, and then no later in December. And every time I got close, I kept saying, no, it's just not, something didn't feel right. It kept feeling like a cash grab. It just kept feeling like I was just an instant cash grab and make $5 to $10 million and then let it go to the wind where it's going to go. And I just saying, I don't need the money. Thankfully, let me hold off and just try to come up with a better idea. A few months ago, I did come up with a much more profound idea. And that is my NFTs being the entry into a Wolf of Wall Street game, which, exists in the metaverse. And that started to get very exciting. And I have some very large companies that I'm, close to signing one or the other right now to build a really amazing sort of world building game of the Wolf of Wall Street. And it would be a combination of that with a mixed with a play to earn angle in it, right? And play to learn and earn. And I think that's super exciting. But I bought the CryptoPunk because a good friend of mine, young guy, said, listen, this is a great way for you to really get into this and really see what it's about. Because until you're in it, you just really can't quite understand. I showed my wife the CryptoPunk. I said, what do you think this is worth? She's like, $12. And that was her analysis. The appraiser. Well, you could kiss your career as an NFT appraiser goodbye. You're off by $449,988. But anyway, that's when you look at it, there's a case, why the hell is this worth so much money? And, it's purely a scarcity play in this case, right? That's what, tokenization does when it's done correctly. You're creating a finite supply. So if something captures the imagination, anything could be used as a store of value, right? Some are better than others, but who's to say? I think right now everyone is looking at NFTs as artwork. But like all the big NFT holders that I know, my friends that are whales, they're like, I don't really care what the art looks like. Like very few people are buying it for that. So I think that we're in the early days of this. There's a fortune to be made. I think everyone should be in it just to learn about it. Like I think what you're doing is very shrewd, and you're coaching people, and you're saying just open up an account, buy something, a few dollars. You're probably going to lose it all, but you need to understand what's going on and be part of this, because that's step one. Like, how did I get into Bitcoin? I bought a Bitcoin. And then next thing you know, you're tracking it and you're seeing. That's how it always starts.